Street cred sports. Street cred sports. I'm crossing over. I'm Euro stepping.
Hello, this is Keenan of Street Cred Sports Training, and welcome to another episode of Time to Ball podcast. Or Time to Ball. I just thought I'd throw podcasts in there, so if y'all didn't know, y'all know. This is episode 67. Like y'all driving around like, oh shit, this is a podcast? Oh damn, I didn't know that. Well, as you can tell, I'm a little, not giggly, I'm just in a good mood. I finally finished after months of grueling. It wasn't grueling, it was just tedious. I finally uploaded and launched the basketball online training course. It's a comprehensive course. I mean, it's real comprehensive. I go through for beginners. So, I'm not going to put whatever age. It's just for beginners. So, I mean, I don't know how much of a three-year-old will get out of it, but it's basically a course where I go over everything. And there's probably going to be some things that I should have added this. Well, that's the great unique thing about this is I can add it, and whoever's on there or whoever purchased it, they will get an alert with new material. So, the game's always evolving. There's a set of principles that you want to go by as for a beginner. This is my vision. So, somebody might look at it and say, oh man, he should have did this, and this. Well, this is kind of all the years that I've been training, these are the protocols and things that I've actually done when it comes to working with beginner kids. Now, obviously there's more, but I feel very, very strongly that if a kid or a beginner follows this tutorial and all of the things from look, I got a section for shooting, for defense, for passing, for dribbling. I also have a little triple threat and pivoting section. And then I have a mental performance section that I'm really excited about. And, am I a mental performance guy with a PhD? No. But I feel like I know the game enough to be able to try to give kids information and be able to help them, because that's what I've been doing along the way for the past, 15 to 25 years. So I'm proud of it. If it's not for somebody, then, maybe reach out to me. Maybe there's something I can add, but I think it's going to, really do something incredible. And I'm happy to be able to try to share stuff that I've learned to be able to try to help those who maybe can't reach out to me or don't have access. So I'll be providing that information probably on the next one, because I want to have an official, what is it, 30-second spot or 15-second spot where I say, hi, friends. Have you ever thought about playing basketball? Something where I'm sounding like, what's his name? Jim Nance at the Masters. All right, so I hope everybody's doing well. As you can see, I'm exhausted. I'm tired. Didn't sleep well. I had it wasn't pain. My wife's getting on me. My daughter's getting on me. She's in nursing school. So anytime I say something, I get like a million questions for her, so it's like I don't even want to say nothing around her. I could be bleeding and my arm is cut off and I'm just trying to hide my arm because she's going to start asking me all of these questions. So how do you feel? What are you thinking? It's so cute. She's so cute when she's analyzing me and asking me all of these questions, but I really appreciate it. But no, it's like I feel like I have to, go to the bathroom. And, so I know there are different things that could be, but I was really bad this past weekend. And the reason I was bad is because, I've eaten so much better since I've been with my wife. She really has made me eat healthier. Like I eat shit that I was like, man, you crazy you think I'm gonna eat that. I'm eating Brussels sprouts nowadays, man. Some Brussels sprouts. Like I always thought that was just midget cabbage back in the day, So, so I'm like, oh, okay, all right. But no, we're transitioning and we're gonna eat really healthier. So but I was really bad up into it. I was like, oh, okay, I got 3 days to eat bad. Let's do it. So I was bad, and I think that might have been why I've been, my body was like, yeah, all right. Yo, you thought that shit was funny, huh? Yeah, we gonna keep your ass up at night with these little discomforts and pains and stuff. So hopefully I'll, in the next day or so I feel better. If not, then I'll go. So why am I saying all that? Man, we got to take care of ourselves. I know I've mentioned it in the past, and sometimes we be like, "Oh, I'll be fine. I'll be fine." Our head is cut off, and we're like, "Oh, I'll be fine. I'll be fine. I just need to rest." Now, you got to take care of yourself because there are people out there that love you and depend on you. So make sure you look into it. So by next week, I'll let y'all know. Hey, you know what? I don't have a problem putting it out there. Next week, if I remember, I'll have my production guy to remind me. I'll put it out there. Everything got better, or I went to the doctor and this is what they told me, and if I figure if what I tell you helps, then so be it. But if it doesn't help and y'all like, man, you can keep that shit to yourself, then that's fine as well. It's just I need to take care of myself. Okay, so having said all of that, let me get into things that interest me. All right, so I want to point this out. First thing I'm gonna talk about is Rudy Gobert. What I learned, what actually I've always kind of known, but I've never really put the thought process together and put it, together to where I could vocalize it. Gobert's not a primary defender, and this is just my opinion, but it seems to be that it's not. I'm not the only one that says it. He's not a primary type defender. He's more of they call it a rim protector or a cleanup guy. So he sits and waits. If people get beat off the dribble, he comes over and he's able to alter shots or make them pass it out, or he blocks the shots and stuff. So that's kind of what he does. What I mean by a primary defender is simply put, you can't put him on an elite scorer and say, hey, shut him down or hold him under his average, or yeah, he's going to get his points, but it's so hard and difficult for him to score that he score, maybe he gets his average, but it was hard. Okay, he's not that kind of guy. And it's a lot of the stuff that goes into his technique with how he defends. I was telling someone, like, he doesn't use his leverage. Right now, he's not as big as the Joker, but if you get lower and you use more of your leverage in your core, Joker's not going to just be able to back you down just like that. If you watch the way guys guarded Shaq back in the day, Shaq would move them, but it wasn't as easy because these guys would get lower than Shaq. They were just as big and tall, but they would get lower, and they would use their leverage to try to make it harder on him to back you down. And that's what the Gobert wasn't doing. Now, second thing is he does look kind of clumsy when he's guarding, like his reaction, his quick twitch muscles, and obviously because he's so tall. But then I've seen other guys who are just as tall, but they probably more because they play more guard, so their steps are a little bit faster and quicker when they pick their feet up and stuff. So he's not a primary defender, and that was something that I learned because I was really interested in saying, hey man, if he's the defensive player of the year, I'm not saying he's gonna stop the Joker, but the Joker is gonna come out of each game like, damn man, I had to work for those points, right? And game five? Game five, man, it was bad. It was really bad with how easily he was scoring on Gobert, and they had to switch. And Cat was the one who him and what's the other guy? God, I can't think of it. 6 man a year. It'll come to me. They were the other two that guarded him better because they weren't as tall, but they kind of have a perimeter player mentality on in their game. So they got lower, and it was harder for him to like just abuse them and back them down. If you look at some of those clips, every time he's posting and he's going into Gobert. Gobert's standing almost straight up with no leverage. So that's what I learned from that, and you know, I just felt there was a mismatch. But I hopefully, hopefully he learns. I mean, but he's won it 4 times. Some people get to where, well, I'm defense player of the year, so I'm not gonna change. Yeah, no, you're not gonna change. But when it gets to this point of the year, if you're unplayable, it's gonna be hard. Like, so I'm gonna mention the Final Four NBA. I'm going into it, but here's the thing: these teams that you're gonna be playing on, they're gonna hunt. They're gonna hunt more. And when you got multiple guys that can space it out and shoot and go off the dribble, it's going to be hard. Denver didn't expose that because they had bigs, but they didn't have guys that were quicker off the dribble. Mavs, Celtics, and the Pacers, they all have guys that can take you off the dribble. So it's going to be interesting to see how playable he is for the remaining playoffs. He's going to be playable, but I wonder if in certain situations after a few games they're going to be like, look, we're going to have trouble because Luka and Kyrie are really good at hunting on those pick and roll for the guys that they want. So you're going to have Gobert out there guarding Kyrie or Luka. Obviously, they're going to try to double. They'll throw some different things. So it's going to be interesting to see. So goes into my next section. Our next part is Final Four matchups. Final Four of the NBA. These matchups I think they're more intriguing than you think. You got the Mavs and the Timberwolves. Game 1's going to be tonight. Last night you had the Pacers and the Celtics. And as I've said, I think the Celtics are probably the most talented team. They should win the title. Obviously, if Porzingis is healthy, but even if he's not, I think they're still a clear-cut favorite. I just don't trust them because they don't come out with that killer mentality of we're blowing everybody out by 40. And obviously every team's going to give them their best, but their best shouldn't match your best. You should be 15 to 20 points better than every team you play. I included Denver with that. I think they would have been better than Denver, and I was partially hoping to see it. But okay, so you got Boston, who has lots of weapons. They can spread the floor. Almost every single person on their team can take you off the dribble. You got Indiana that speeds the pace up, and they got a lot of guys that can space the floor and take you off the dribble. Not as good as what I would say Boston is, but they're right up there. You got the Mavs with Kyrie and Luka, and you got a whole bunch of guys that can get hot. And the way they play, they space you out, they get the mismatches they want, and then if those guys are knocking down 3, Dallas is really hard to beat. The thing that concerns me, and it's always been a concern, I was never one. Maybe I said it. I don't know if I said it. I was never one to say, man, Luka and Kyrie can't play together. I might have said that. If I did, what I was probably referring to was on the defensive end. Offensively, if you think about it, it's a lot like when he played with LeBron. It's almost identical. LeBron was ball heavy. Kyrie was like the 2 guard, and he get his every now and then. It's almost the same, with the way they play, pick and rolls and stuff like that, and they have other guys. They can score on anybody. What I'm concerned with it is as good and as high level as Kyrie has been dedicating himself to play defense. He's getting better, but they're still gonna hunt him. Goodness, Luka. I just drew a blank. Luka is the one that has very bad defensive tendencies when he plays defense. And he came up with a great block against OKC. He can play defense, but he is the weak link. And my thing has always been when you have 2 guys on the floor that you consider weak links in crunch time, it becomes a problem because you can't plug up all of those holes and teams will expose it. Now, OKC didn't expose it as much because OKC didn't have anybody else other than Shea, that could just really get his points. The other guys were just kind of catch and shoot, dribble, drive, shoot. Now, I'm not saying they couldn't score because they ended up with the number one record. But when the playoffs came and the defenses shifted, they had a hard time. Now, against the Clippers, they did struggle when they went after those guys, but the Clippers have been the Clippers. I hate to say it. They just, I don't know why people thought that they were going to win. I just didn't see it, because of the way they play. To me, they don't have structure in their offense. And then with Minnesota, you have, Cat, and you have, Anthony Edwards, and then you have the rest of the crew that can play. Nas Reed is the sixth man. That's the guy I was talking about, the big. So you got some guys. So this matchup is going to be, I think, it's a dream matchup for me to see how they compete with each other, because Minnesota's really great defensively, but you're going to have problems trying to corral Luka and Kyrie. But then making them play defense is going to be, how is it they're going to make Luka play defense? Who's Luka going to guard? And as he switches and stuff, if they can take advantage of it, they'll be fine. Now, Cat continues to just do things that just make my head go, why would you do that defensively? He still makes those bonehead, low IQ foul plays and bad plays, but he has been great. And a few years ago, I think I've said it on this podcast, I like Minnesota. They just scare me because they make bonehead plays, and this year they've still made some, but it hasn't hurt them like it did in the past. They've been able to overcome them. Will they still continue? I think the only person that really is the forefront is Cat. He's gonna make incredibly, why would you make that type of foul? Like, there were 4 fouls that I seen him commit in the last 2 games where I'm just looking at him like, why? Okay, if I'm guarding you, and I know I got two fouls, I'm going to be a little bit more passive with how I use my hands. I'm not going to be so aggressive trying to strip the ball. And if I'm not known for a guy who has those quick hands to strip the ball, why am I trying to reach? Why am I putting my hands where I know they can't? And that's the kind of stuff he gets caught up for. And it's weird because you see these guys in the NBA, and he's not the only one. There are a lot of them that make these man, why would you do that type fouls? So they've been good. They've been able to overcome, and it showed. They beat Denver. All right, so next on this actually goes into Denver. Now, my question is, why don't people say that they were wrong when they're wrong? Hey, I might be somebody who said something and then forgot and not came back. Hey, if that's the case, if somebody's looking at episode 42 and say, yo, okay, on the comments, yo, okay, yo, you was talking all that shit about this, man, you was wrong. I didn't hear you apologize for it. I'll go back and say, hey, you know what? You right, dog. That was on me. I didn't see it. I thought I saw Minnesota winning. Here's what I mean when I say people admit they're wrong. I was one that kept, okay, you got to give a team their due for winning, right? Because they won it. They beat the teams in front of them. But when you look back at the teams Denver faced, there wasn't the teams that they faced that was could really challenge them. They swept the Lakers. They swept Miami. I think they beat Minnesota, and Minnesota wasn't ready. So that was a good series. Even though they beat them in 5, I think that was a really good series because they had to play tough. So I would give them credit for that. Then the Phoenix series was, I think they beat them 5-1, 4-1 or 4-0. I'm not remembering, but that's when they had just made all of the trades. So all of that stuff was in flux about the coach, the players. Phoenix didn't have anything that was going to remotely bother Denver. Now, if they'd have had their team that had went to the finals and they'd have beat them 4-1, Okay, all right, I'm rolling with that. They swept the Lakers. Lakers, it's just bad matchup for them. And then wasn't much resistance against the Lakers. And then they played Miami, who doesn't have any type of big, so it was barbecue chicken for the Joker for 4 games. Miami was an 8 seed. Now, had they beat Boston, I would have been like, hey, you know what? This is a team I want to see. This year was a lot more resistance. Now, obviously, they had their favorite bye, which was the Lakers, but the Lakers pushed them to 5 this time. Look, pushed them to 5. It went 5. Then they played Minnesota. If they would have beat Minnesota, I was wanting to see how they would fare against the Mavericks because the Mavericks matched up very well with them with how they play. Okay, so I was wanting to see that. And then obviously if Boston wins, then I would have saw that. So if Denver goes through these teams and wins this year, I give them total credit now for both. Because then I say, well, it wouldn't have mattered who they played last year because they went hard and they beat the good teams this year. They didn't beat any scrubs. But because they lost second round to a team that they beat last year, and they lost, it was kind of convincing when you look at it, the way the games, the series went, it wasn't any question marks, right? They lose that series. Now I'm going to question the validity of those, like how good were they? And then I hear him in the press conference. Well, it's hard to, repeat. And, now when you win, you're not the hunter, you're the hunted. Like, damn, how didn't y'all know that, man? People been saying this since the 80s about repeating and how hard it is because now you're going to get everybody's best. So then you think about teams like Golden State, teams like San Antonio, the Lakers, the dynasty of the Bulls. You think about all of those teams that went back to back and you ask yourself, it's not easy. It's really hard. So I don't know why they, felt like it was going to be easy. Everybody was giving them their best. And they had a problem, matching up. And a lot of it was their bench. They let some key guys go. And, that's what it was. But everybody who was like, oh, Denver's the greatest team and they're a dynasty. And I'm thinking, yeah, but Jordan always said, man, anybody can look up and win one championship. You got to win more than one. Doesn't have to be back to back, but you got to be in there for a couple of more. I don't know if you're going to see Denver in the finals anymore because these teams have made a shift. There is a shift. So I don't know. I'm not saying they won't, but I can't see OKC not addressing and having a big to complement the Chet Holmgren, right? They're going to get bigger. The Mavs are going to be there where they are. Y'all forgot about Memphis. Memphis got that dude on their team that's coming next year. Everything's all taken care of. They're going to be there as well. I don't know what Golden State's going to do. I don't know what the Lakers going to do. I don't know what Phoenix is going to do. The Clippers, all of these other teams, Sacramento. So the road is going to get tougher. I think this is one of the toughest years where it was just like, damn, you got these teams that are out. Golden State should have been in the playoffs. That you get to thank Draymond Green for that. And he all on his podcast, but I don't ever hear him say, hey, I'm responsible for that. I know he talked about the 3-1, it was his fault, but I haven't heard him. Maybe he has. I haven't heard him say like, look, man, you know what? I didn't give us a chance. If he plays and they don't get it, then that's fine. You can understand that. It wasn't due to injury, but his, I'll call it low IQ play. As high of an IQ players is when it comes to his feelings, I think he gets more low IQ because he lets his emotions get the better of him when he shouldn't. So I just wish people would, say they were wrong because the last year was different than this year. If you were wrong on Denver, just say, hey, man, you know what? I thought Denver was going to be the team, but they weren't. I was wrong. But no, a lot of these people turn around and throw in, they try to pivot and spin it and all this other stuff, So, nah, I don't want to hear that. If it was good at the beginning of the year when you was talking about how good it was, how good they were, ain't nothing changed. They didn't have anybody injured. You can't say Jamal because he looked injured the first 2 games. Then the next 3 he's killing. But now he's being played really difficult. He has 24 in the first half. He gets almost shut down the second half. That wasn't the issue. It wasn't that he was hurt. It wasn't like with the Knicks. So I don't want to hear that. But I don't see them ascending the way uh, you know, people thought they were. I could be wrong. I'll see. We'll wait and see what they do in our season. They have some cracks. I'm not gonna get into that now, but there are some things that I'm sure are gonna come out, and they're gonna have to address it. Okay, so let me get to my basketball ideology. Now I've been thinking about different things and what I do, and I talk about my training. What I'm gonna start doing is I'm going to start breaking down stuff that I see in games, and I'm going to start talking about how it relates to my training and what we do when we're training kids. Okay, so what I'm gonna spotlight is um, the Minnesota Denver series. Okay, not the series. I'm gonna go to Game 7. All right, now there are always more than one reasons that a team can win a game or lose. So I'm not saying that, oh, this is the reason they won. Like if they hadn't have done this, they wouldn't have won. Now, I'm not saying that. All I'm spotlighting is one of those reasons I feel put them in a position to be successful and win. This is just one of those reasons. There are others, but I'm just gonna point out one. Uh, so spacing. I always talk to my kids about spacing. If you have poor spacing in the game, meaning, and here's what I mean by spacing. If I'll use a traditional 5-out offense. A 5-out offense, you got somebody at the top, you got two guys on the wing, you got two guys in the corner, right? You want to be perfectly spaced distance wise between everyone. If you're closer, if the wing is closer to the top, and the player gets the ball and tries to drive left, that defender on the top is going to have an easier time trying to help, right? So if you're closer to the top on the right hand side, but then you drive right, you're going to create a little bit more distance and give yourself more opportunity. Okay, now why do I say that? Because that first half, the Minnesota the Wolves against the Nuggets, the spacing in the first half and second half of Game 7 was completely different. Now, there's one thing that I want to point out with what I saw that was different. Their spacing was a little bit, kind of a little bit clustered. You had guys a little bit too close. You had guys trying to drive. They didn't have good driving lanes because of you had Gobert and sometimes Cat. So you got all those people in. It makes it harder to get to the basket because you're going to have help and it's easier. So you have to kind of figure out. Now the way Denver plays is Denver started to space things out more and make it harder for you to double because you had to make a decision if you were going to give up a 2 or a 3. And for some reason, they kind of got away from that the way they were playing. And Minnesota had a lot to do with it, with how they started to play it. But I'm always a big believer in you're going to give up something. You're always going to give up something. If you got a guy that can get to the basket, you're going to constantly give up something. You're going to give up shots to that guy, or you're going to give up open shots. Because if that guy knows how to find the open person, which you had everybody on Denver that could, it makes it hard to you just basically looking at, hey, this is a guy we want to shoot, and if he makes it, then we can live with it. Okay, so why did their spacing get better the second half, Minnesota spacing? What I noticed was in the first half with Gobert, when he would, set screens sometimes high, where he was setting them, a lot of times it was on the wing, but I think most of the times he was in the middle of the floor. When he was rolling to the rim, screen and roll. Number one, they weren't trying to throw him the ball. Number two, he was kind of going through the motions. Like he wasn't going to the rim hard like he was a threat to get the ball and get the lob and catch the ball and just, either all he's doing is turning and shooting either a little hook or a little or dunking it. You know, if you throw him the ball, and that's what I tell my kids, if you're running a pick and roll, you know, you don't want to just give the ball to the kid just anywhere, to your player anywhere. If that player isn't adept at taking one or two dribbles and has the footwork, you want to get them as close to the basket as possible. So all they have to do is just catch and, you know, and go up. If you have somebody that's a little bit more skilled that could put the ball on the basket and maybe know how to do a pro hop or a euro or a jump stop or a move, then you can give that person the ball a little bit further out so they can take a bounce and make a decision. Gobert is not that. Plus, what I wasn't understanding was even when he was rim running, when he got in to the post, a lot of times they were tagging, meaning, you know, somebody was helping or switching or getting to him, and it was usually a guard. It was usually a guard. It was Casey Pope, what's the other guy's name? Murray. Guys, it's like I don't know anybody's name, and I've been talking about him for the longest. But it was the smaller guards, the ones and the twos, not so much the threes and the fours that Gobert was having an opportunity to get the ball with. Now, I think that Minnesota did a very poor job at throwing him the ball. Now, sometimes they didn't even look to throw him the ball, which was a problem. There were a few times where they threw him the ball, but I felt like they were giving him the ball in the wrong position, so he wasn't able to do anything with it, right? He was able when I say able to do something with it, mean he wasn't a threat to catch the ball and first look to score. And now if that defender comes over that can challenge it, he's kicking it out. He was catching it and kicking it out, so you could tell defensively that they's like, okay, he's catching it. He's not in a position to do something. He's automatically throwing it out. So if I'm helping, by the time the ball gets out to that corner, I'm already there. So that corner three is not happening, right? He's not going to be able to shoot that three because I'm there. Okay, that was a lot of stuff that was going on. They weren't looking for him. The spacing was kind of, you know, it wasn't what it needed to be. And they weren't looking for him. He was half-assed going to the rim. His activity in the first half was not ideal with what you would want on both ends, defense and offense. He wasn't making he wasn't making an impact. And you kind of look at it, they got up, right? They were up, right? So what changed? Well, the second half, his rim running was 100% better. They started throwing him the ball as he was setting screens and cut. I think they did it early in the third quarter. I don't know when. I'm not one of those at 4:22 in the third quarter. I know it was sometime in the third quarter where ball was in the left wing. Gobert set a screen. Ball goes back up to Cat, and as it goes up to Cat, Gobert runs, sprints to the rim. Cat hits him for a catch and an easy dunk. Now he's sprinting to the rim, and they're throwing the ball, and he's slipping and getting those easy dunks, right? The second thing he was doing was they started throwing him the ball. They would allow him to get their position and then throw it to him when he had a smaller guy on him. So it was basically, okay, y'all gonna keep putting these little guys on him. They're fine. And look, I'm not saying they didn't do this throughout the series. There were times, but this second half, it was as if they made a conscious effort to expose certain things, right? So by doing it, they didn't have the height to help Jamal Murray or Caldwell Pope or Reggie Jackson and those guys. So he was able to catch it low and go up. Well, what they do, they foul him. Man, we ain't going to let him score. We're going to send his ass to the line and make him shoot free throws because Gobert's not, I don't know what his percentage is, but he's not like a high 80. I don't think, watching him shoot free throws, I'd be shocked if he was shooting more than 70% from the line. But he very well could be. But his form is to be desired, right? But here's the thing. They were in the penalty early that third quarter. Why is that significant? Because when you're in the penalty, by this time Denver was starting to felt like they were pulling away. I believe they was up by 20. By them getting in the penalty mainly because of Gobert getting to the line. Now they can slow the game down, and they could take their time catching up because he's gonna score, and they were starting to get stops. So it wasn't like Denver was just out of their minds the third quarter with scoring. Minnesota outscored them. So now Ant and Cat, if they're driving, hey, if I can't get a shot off, I'm gonna get to the line, right? So now they can kind of cut into that lead. But here was the second thing that I noticed from Gobert. And look, I, I'm a fan of Gobert for what he gives. I don't think he's as important as, you know, some people say he is in this era. Back in the day, he would have definitely been vital because of the way the game plays. But I think you're gonna start to see. You saw it against Denver. There were times where it looked like he wasn't playable because they were going after him. You're gonna see a lot of that against the Mavs. But this second half from Gobert was outstanding to me. So if I'm gonna get on you about stuff, man, I'm gonna give you. I'm gonna always be honest about it. Gobert was a huge reason for them getting back in the game and ultimately winning because it wasn't just his rim running where he was catching the ball and scoring. It wasn't just the fact that he was getting to the foul line and put them in bonus, so they're shooting free throws. His activity in the second half was great. He was, obviously he blocked shots, but he was getting a lot of rebounds where he was either catching it, putting it in, tipping it up, and even if he didn't get it, it allowed one of his teammates, Cat, Anthony Edwards, Reed, Jay, any of those guys. It was allowing them an opportunity to catch and put the shot up. He was tipping the ball back as well. So now Denver's collapsing on the rebounds. He's able to tip it back, and his shooters were getting open shots. Uh, it was great. So like I said, the ball reversal from the side, his rolling. They threw him the ball. He made shots. His offensive activity was huge. Now that all translates because I tell kids, look, you have to play. This was a perfect example of playing your role. Your role is this and this. Play it to the best of your abilities. So I tell kids, some kids I have, they play the four. Now they're undersized four because sometimes on certain teams the coaches don't trust them to do anything with the ball, so they stick them down in the post. And the kids and parents sometimes get a little frustrated what I think they should be doing. I say, look, are any of those kids on your team shooting like Steph Curry? They're shooting 100%. They're probably not shooting over 15% throughout a game. So what does that tell you? You have opportunities to score and be effective. Rebounds, putbacks. When you set screens and you set the screen and roll to the basket, roll with authority. I said it's going to open up something. It's either going to open up a shot opportunity for you or the person who has the ball or somebody who's helping off of the defender to get to you. That person gets open. Now, obviously, your team has to have the level of IQ that goes into making sure that they catch that. And when you're dealing with younger kids, that's got to go up to the coaches who are coaching them, which, unfortunately is not going to be the case all the time. But all I can do is tell my players and kids, you do the things the right way because here's what's going to happen. At some point, you're going to be playing high school, or at some point, you're going to be playing with a high-level team and a high-level coach. And if you're doing those things now with a bad team, when you do them with a good team, you're going to get rewarded because everybody understands if that ball is moving the way it needs to, it's going to get where it needs to get. You're going to get opportunities to score and those things. I remember I had a kid once who played on the team, and some of the stuff we would work on, and it was like, I don't get the ball, and I'm open, and it's frustrating. And then the kid moves to a new team, and now the kid's scoring like crazy because he's doing the same things that he was doing on that other team, but now he's playing on a team where the players understand, what to do, or they've been coached to. and he's seeing the fruits of the little things, setting good screens, not moving on the screens, running hard to the rim or popping out. When you catch it, understanding that as soon as you catch it, if the team is in the man to man and you're in the 5 out and you catch it running from the wing as they collapse, as soon as you catch the ball, understanding here's your shot opportunity, but if the shot opportunity is taken away, there's immediate pass to one of the corners, depending on. And when you explain these things to kids and tell them all you have to do is a little thing sometimes. You don't have to be some 40-point scorer, with incredible ball handling and shooting ability. No, that's part of the game. And you might have kids on your team that do that. But they need guys to do other stuff. They need guys that you always need guys that play defense. And they're to guys that pride themselves that I don't care about scoring. I'm just gonna lock this dude up. Well, you know what? I'm trying to get every rebound. Y'all can have all that stuff. I want rebounds and lobs. That's it. And block shots. There are other guys, hey man, I just want to set screens and get loose balls. So by watching the things that you see, and I tell the kids you have to watch the games because you're going to learn a lot. This was a perfect example of Gobert doing his job in helping his team to put them in the Western Conference Finals because of how he played. And I'm going to go a step further. I am going, as I'm talking and stuff, I'm going to go back. And I'm going to go to the stats. Gobert shot 9 free throws. Now it's like, well, yeah, that wasn't a lot of free throws. But I'm willing to bet, it's really hard to break it down, but most of his 9 was, I believe, that second half. I don't think he went to the line that many times in the first half. That second half is when he went to the line a lot. I would say 4 or 5 of those free throws he shot was in the third quarter. He went to the line 4 or 5 times in the third quarter because then that's when everything else got going. So it's just one of those things where you play your part, you play your position, and you do whatever you need to do. And sometimes the first part of it won't be as successful. That's when you got to make a game adjustment. You got to understand, look, they're trying to take this away from me, so now I'm going to do this. And these are the things that you want to always make sure you're doing in the game. And these are the things that I try to stress to my kids. Look, you're young. You're going to make tons of mistakes. So keep making those mistakes. As long as you learn from them, you'll be fine. If you don't learn from them, we got a problem. We got to fix it. And even if fixing it, I can tell you and put you in the best position. But if, number one, you're afraid to execute it, number two, you don't do it, that's the disconnect. That's the problem. Those are 2 things I really can't solve because I can talk to you and show you until you're blue in the face. But if you're not going to try to go make the effort to actually do it and try it and live with the results, yes, it's the immovable object. What is it? The movable object in an irresistible force or something like that. Stand still. Okay, so that's gonna be all. I hope you guys found that this portion intriguing. I'm going to do more of that. Obviously, I'm going to always still talk about a lot of other stuff. But with a lot of NBA and WNBA games, I'm going to try to break down certain things. Like breaking down film, everything's going to pertain to what I do training-wise. So, it's always going to give me more stuff to talk about. And I guess as the NBA season, ends, I'll be going into that WNBA season. I can't be breaking down baseball because it'll be, all right, that was a swing and a foul ball. He swung the bat. I think it's a 3-2 pitch count. Okay, that one was just a little bit outside. First baseman is stretching. Looks like he's ready to try to steal. That's kind of gonna how to be with baseball. I hope there's no baseball people. I actually love to play baseball. I just couldn't find myself doing it because it was number one, you're out there in that hot ass sun. Number two, you're standing around a lot of times. And you got to have really good concentration because, you could be looking in the stands or paying attention to something else and somebody hits the ball and you're like, oh, where's the ball? So no, you won't see me doing baseball breakdown. But look, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I want you to understand that you can always like, follow, subscribe, and comment on the content. We got some other things coming. I have reached out to some people. I'm just waiting to hear back, and then we'll go. I might try to do a video podcast in the next week or two if I don't get someone, just so y'all can see this beautiful face. I know what y'all will do. Y'all will black it out. So it'll be like I'm on a Zoom call where it's like 40 people in the Zoom call and it's like 28 black spots, and you're like, hey, are you guys there? And everybody's they got it blacked out and they're on mute, and then they'll say, oh yeah, I'm here, and then they'll go back to mute and black, so you can't see what they're doing. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed this, and keep watching the games and learning, and I'm gonna end it the way I always do. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it. I'm out.
Street cred sports, say it with your chest. Yeah. Go get it from the net. Street cred sports, okay, that's a bet.